St. James United Methodist Church loomed over the northern edge of Memphis like a living cathedral of community life. Built from pale limestone and red brick, its soaring steeple and arched stained glass windows could be seen for blocks in every direction. Most people knew it only as a place of Sunday worship, but inside its vast walls lay an entire ecosystem. A full elementary school, dozens of administrative offices, a gymnasium capable of hosting middle school basketball games, a professional-grade kitchen, a walk-in refrigerated pantry, laundry facilities for church linens, and storage rooms that seemed to stretch on forever. From the outside, you might glimpse students in bright uniforms streaming through the east entrance each morning, or catch the scent of freshly baked bread drifting down the sidewalk from the kitchen's industrial ovens. But few visitors paused to consider how many moving parts were required to keep such a complex running day after day. Beneath the high vaulted ceiling of the main chapel, hallways branched off in every direction, each lined with office doors, chalkboards, and bulletin boards, plastered with announcements for book clubs, youth groups, and community potlucks. At the heart of this operation was Sam Drash, a 42-year-old educator with salt and pepper hair and a tireless work ethic. As headmaster of St. James Elementary, Sam spent his weekdays juggling budgets, attending staff meetings, and fielding parent inquiries, often well into the evenings. His office, tucked between the administrative wing and the corridor leading to the gym, was lined with filing cabinets and student artwork. A narrow window offered a view of the playground just beyond, but Sam rarely looked up. His eyes were fixed on spreadsheets, enrollment projections, and his ever-growing to-do list. Because he spent so many late nights at his desk, Sam relied on one small comfort, a large ceramic bowl of mixed nuts. Placed prominently beside his computer keyboard, it served as both snack and distraction, healthy calories that kept his mind alert during marathon grading sessions and after-hours lesson planning. He favored a specific blend, almonds, cashews, and pecans, tipped with a handful of dried cranberries for sweetness. Over time, the empty bowl became as much a part of his routine as turning on the desk lamp or booting up the computer. Across the hallway, in the spotless chambers of the church's industrial kitchen, worked Brother Thomas, known to most simply as the cook. Brother Thomas was a man in his late 50s, whose warm laugh and gentle manner made him beloved by students and staff alike. Each morning before sunrise, he arrived to stoke the ovens and prepare breakfast for the school children. His domain included gleaming stainless steel countertops, a deep well sink for washing trays of vegetables, and a massive walk-in refrigerator secured by a sturdy padlock at night. Each week, Brother Thomas received supply deliveries, crates of fresh produce, cases of milk, bags of flour, and the familiar 5-pound tubs of roasted nuts that always seemed destined for Sam's office. Working side by side with kitchen assistants and occasional parent volunteers, he ensured that hungry hands found hot meals, athletic teams refueled after practice, and church potlucks overflowed with casseroles and cakes. On the surface, Sam and Brother Thomas shared a simple arrangement. Sam's nuts originated from the pantry that Thomas meticulously maintained. Yet as October settled into early winter, a subtle unease began to spread between them. Minor discrepancies in inventory, snacks missing here, a ham vanishing there, posed more than mere inconvenience. In a place built on order, service, and trust, these small mysteries hinted at an unsettling reality. Someone was quietly unraveling the fabric of St. James United Methodist's daily life, one missing morsel at a time. This was the stage upon which Sam and Brother Thomas would soon find themselves locked in a much larger drama, one that would reveal secrets hidden in the attic rafters and bring to light a crime no one had imagined could occur within these sacred walls. The next morning, Sam unlocked his office door and flipped on the desk lamp, expecting to dive into the day's paperwork. Instead, he froze at the sight of his large ceramic bowl, once brimming with roasted almonds, cashews, pecans, and dried cranberries, now sitting stark and empty. He had filled it himself late the previous evening, and the office had been locked tight overnight. Confusion turned quickly to irritation. Who would have the nerve to help themselves to his only source of comfort during long nights at the computer? Determined to find an answer, Sam strode down the hallway toward the kitchen. The fluorescent lights cast long shadows on the tile floor as he pushed open the swinging door. Brother Thomas, the church's cook, paused mid-chop and looked up at Sam's furrowed brow. Without a word, Sam crossed to the pantry alcove and yanked open its door, revealing empty shelves where his snack jars had always sat. In their place, a hollow space with only a few dust particles to mark where the container had rested. Beyond that, dozens of other snack packages, granola bars, dried fruit, trail mix, were missing as well. Brother Thomas set his knife aside, wiping his hands on his apron. "I'm glad you noticed," he said quietly. "Food's been disappearing for weeks now. First just a handful of nuts, then cereal boxes. Last night I even secured the fridge with a padlock." He led Sam to the stainless steel refrigerator, tugged the heavy door open and pointed to the top shelf. "I stashed a whole cured ham in here, locked it tight at 10 o'clock. By dawn it was gone." The empty space across from a stack of untouched dairy cartons spoke louder than any explanation. Sam stared, incredulous. An entire leg of ham vanished. Snacks plucked from locked cupboards. Personal items in the kitchen began to shift overnight. None of it made sense. If it were mischievous students with a spare key, they would surely have been caught by now. Yet whoever, or whatever, was responsible showed an uncanny knowledge of the church's darkest recesses. Sam felt a chill creep up his spine. This was no harmless prank. Something far more unsettling was unfolding behind these sanctuary walls. The string of eerie incidents only grew more brazen in the days that followed. First, Sam and Brother Thomas enlisted the church's maintenance supervisor to replace the old padlock on the walk-in refrigerator with a brand new industrial-grade model. The following morning, they found the lock pried open and food missing once again, despite only a handful of administrators holding keys. Sam sighed as he surveyed the empty shelf where Thomas had carefully stowed away a cured ham. He confronted the head administrator that afternoon, who promised to look into the matter, though the reply felt perfunctory, laden with polite uncertainty rather than conviction. Not content to wait, Sam arranged for the fridge lock to be changed a second time, this time installing a built-in combination lock with a steel cover. He personally distributed the new code to 5 trusted staff members and kept a written record in his desk. Yet, in another display of baffling expertise, the ham vanished again by dawn, and footprints, no larger than a child's, crisscrossed the snow outside the service entrance where the cooler disembarked its deliveries. Whoever was responsible clearly understood exactly where to find the food and how to avoid detection. Meanwhile, the prank assumed a more personal tone. Brother Thomas arrived each morning to discover his heavy leather clogs lined neat as if for worship on the counter, or tossed in an unlikely corner of the kitchen, a mocking rearrangement rather than theft. His pristine white apron, folded and placed atop a stack of pans in one instance, would be found the next day laid draped over a mop bucket, as if someone wanted to watch him scramble to re-equip himself before starting the day's meal preparation. Thomas laughed nervously at first, but the stares in his eyes betrayed a growing unease. This was no longer a matter of missing snacks. Late one afternoon, Sam returned from the chapel to discover a single sheet of parchment carelessly tossed on his paperwork. The ink, still slightly wet, bore a frantic hand and an ominous message. "Leslie Gaddis hears your prayers from above. Look for her in the attic." Sam's pulse thundered. Leslie Gaddis, a local 15-year-old who had disappeared from her bedroom 2 months earlier, was the subject of every police bulletin and newspaper banner. The note suggested her fate might lie hidden somewhere within the Abbey's ancient loft. Hesitant but driven by duty, Sam phoned the local Garda, who arrived within the hour. They ransacked the dusty rafters of the nave, lingering in every shadowed corner, yet found nothing but ancient prayer books and pigeon droppings. Before leaving, an officer patted Sam on the shoulder and whispered, "Probably just a tasteless joke. Keep us posted, though." The next day, Sam found another message taped to the back of his own door. "She weeps behind locked doors. Follow her tears." Across the corridor, a similar note lay ignominiously atop Brother Thomas's station in the kitchen. Taken together, the missives no longer felt like student hijinks, but the work of someone intimately familiar with the building's hidden passages and locked chambers. Word of the disappearing food and cryptic notes began to drift through the staff lounge, but no one connected the dots publicly. In hushed tones, they blamed bored teenagers, an overzealous prankster, or even a rival parish. Unwilling to dismiss the threat, Sam vowed to dig deeper. He obtained a detailed blueprint of the abbey from the diocesan archives and began mapping every pantry, corridor, and above-ceiling crawl space. Meanwhile, the new combination lock on the fridge sat untouched, yet supplies still vanished overnight. The stakes had grown far beyond stolen snacks. The unseen perpetrator was rearranging personal effects and leaving cryptic allusions to an unsolved murder. With each unanswered question, Sam realized he was on the brink of unraveling a terrible secret, one that had been hiding in plain sight beneath the abbey's hallowed roof. That night, Sam and the maintenance crew, 3 burly men well past their bedtime, slipped into the abbey just after everyone else had left. They stationed themselves in shadowy alcoves along the corridor that led from the front entrance to the kitchen and then on to Sam's office. Each carried a flashlight, though they dared not switch them on. The plan was simple: wait until the unseen culprit returned, then catch them in the act. Hours crawled by in silence. Beneath the high vaulted ceiling, the only sound was the faint hum of the old heating pipes. Sam sat in a darkened doorway, eyes fixed on the pantry wing. One by one, the men dozed fitfully, the tension tugging at their nerves. At precisely 2:13 a.m., Brother Thomas gave a soft cough to rouse them. "Hear that?" he whispered. A faint metallic scrape echoed down the passage. Someone was inside the kitchen. Thomas motioned to Daniel, the crew's youngest member, to circle around and approach the swinging kitchen door. As Daniel crept forward, Sam and the others strained to see through the fabric of darkness. Then, just as Daniel reached the archway, a sudden flicker of light pierced the gloom from within the kitchen, the blade of a chef's knife reflecting a stray beam. Daniel froze, heart pounding. He signaled the others, and together they advanced. Sam gripped his flashlight tight, ready to reveal whoever had tormented their church for weeks. Thomas the cook crept alongside, muscle memory guiding him toward the source of the disturbance. In the cramped kitchen, they found the refrigerator door ajar, but more alarming was the wooden trapdoor in the ceiling, now thrown wide. A rope ladder dangled into the room's center. And at the top of that ladder, emerging from the attic's dimness, was a gaunt figure of a teenage girl. Her face was pale and streaked with tears, her hands caked in dust. Behind her stood Ernest Stubblefield, the church handyman whose easy smile had disarmed every suspicious thought. He clutched a large hunting knife in a trembling fist. For a heartbeat, time froze. Then Leslie, sensing her chance, slipped away from Ernest and let herself drop from the ladder into Daniel's waiting arms. She sobbed into his shoulder, a whimper of relief so profound it echoed through the silent chamber. Ernest lunged for the girl, knife raised, but Sam and Thomas reacted instantly. They tackled him in a tangle of arms and flashlights, wresting the blade free and pinning his wrists to the linoleum floor. Leslie scrambled to her feet and bolted from the room as Thomas called the police on his cell. Officers arrived within minutes, guiding Leslie to safety and cuffing Ernest seconds later. The knife, still slick with dust and something darker, clattered to the floor as the last of the maintenance men held Ernest under guard. In the aftermath, Sam stood in the kitchen facing the trapdoor. He stared up at the shadowed rafters, imagining how many nights Leslie had spent alone in that hidden crawl space, hungry and afraid. Brother Thomas knelt beside him, placing a steady hand on Sam's shoulder. "You did it," he said softly. "You found her." Outside, the first light of dawn brimmed on the horizon. Leslie's whispered account would reveal that Ernest had abducted her from her home, using his trusted position at the Abbey to keep her concealed for 4 harrowing months. But in that moment, Sam only felt the weight lift from his chest. A church that had been violated so thoroughly could now begin to heal. As the police led Ernest away, Sam turned to the others. "Let's lock every door and replace every padlock," he said, voice hoarse but determined. "But most of all, let's never forget why we do this work." And for the first time in weeks, the echoing hallways of St. Brigid's Abbey felt like a sanctuary once more. In the days that followed the storm of that midnight rescue, the community at St. James United Methodist Church slowly exhaled. News of Leslie Gaddis's miraculous escape spread through Memphis like dawn's first light, dispelling the fear that had gripped every corner of the abbey. Ernest Stubblefield was swiftly prosecuted. At his trial, the prosecution laid out the months of captivity, the hidden attic crawlspace, and the mounting evidence of his betrayal of trust. Jury and judge alike were unmoved by his claims of misguided protection. He was convicted on charges of kidnapping and conspiracy to commit murder and received a 20-year prison sentence, a punishment that offered little solace for the trauma he had inflicted. Meanwhile, Leslie Gaddis embarked on a brave journey of recovery. With professional counseling and the unwavering support of her family, she began to piece together the shattered fragments of her teenage years. The halls of the Abbey, once a prison of shadows, became the setting for her healing. Years later, Leslie stood before the city's leaders not as a victim, but as an advocate. She earned her law degree, joined the State Commission on Missing and Exploited Children, and dedicated her career to ensuring no other child would endure what she had. Back at the Abbey, the alterations were immediate and permanent. Every lock was replaced with high-security hardware. The old steel padlocks gave way to coded electronic systems, and surveillance cameras, once strictly prohibited in the sacred spaces, were discreetly installed in corridors and pantry wings. Church administrators instituted a nightly security patrol, and unauthorized personnel were barred from after-hours access. Through it all, Sam Drash and the maintenance crew remained unsung heroes, known only to those who had witnessed their courage. Their names appeared in local newspapers, but they brushed off the accolades. Sam returned to his office, trading painful spreadsheets for budget reviews. Yet the memory of that trap door and the girl it hid stayed with him. Brother Thomas resumed his cooking duties, now handing out extra servings of snack bowls to students and staff as tokens of normalcy. In time, the echo of disappearing ham and the shuffle of misplaced boots faded into legend. St. James once again became simply a place of worship, learning, and fellowship. But every year on Thanksgiving Eve, exactly 119 days after Leslie's disappearance, the church holds a quiet candlelight vigil in the attic loft, honoring the bravery that turned a nightmare into salvation. Each year on the anniversary of that fateful stakeout, St. James United Methodist Church hosts a quiet vigil beneath the attic skylight, offering candles and prayers of gratitude for Leslie Gaddis and the courage it took to bring her safely back into the light. The ritual draws families from across Memphis, some unfamiliar with the church's multifaceted life, but all touched by the story of a young girl's resilience and the steadfast determination of those who refused to look away. For Sam Drash, returning to his office never feels quite the same. He still keeps a single almond in a small jar on his desk, no longer for snacking, but as a reminder of how an ordinary comfort can spark extraordinary vigilance. On quiet afternoons, he sometimes gazes upward through the clerestory windows at the attic rafters, recalling the silhouette of a frightened teenager and the exact moment the trapdoor gave way. Though the church regained its peaceful routine, the memory of shadows sliding across those hidden beams lingers at the edge of his mind. The Abbey's transformation stands as a testament to lessons learned. Locks must never be merely symbolic, and a missing snack can herald far darker secrets. Administrators instituted rigorous security protocols, balancing reverence for sacred spaces with the practical necessity of protecting all who enter. The gymnasium now hosts discussions on child safety. The pantry walls bear posters celebrating vigilance over indifference. Above all, the legacy of that night underscores a simple truth. What begins as a prank can mask something far more sinister. It takes only one person willing to follow a clue, knock on a locked door, or stake out a darkened corridor to unveil the hidden horrors lurking in familiar halls. At St. James, the story of Leslie's rescue endures not only in yearly remembrance, but in a culture that refuses to forget that darkness thrives if good people do nothing, and hope prevails when courage shines a light into every shadow.